It's the two best words in sports, Game 7. Did Pascal Siakam seemingly cast some type of dark magic to force Game 7? For the first time since 2016, the NBA Finals are going the distance. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video of Spectator Sports, where we cover sports from a spectator's point of view. I'm your host Sebastian Fonseca, and in this video we'll be recapping a little bit of Game 6, but since it was such a blowout, I thought, why not preview Game 7 of the NBA Finals, where everything is on the line. But before we get into the content, please do us a massive favor. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you want to get more videos of Spectator Sports, we got that for you here on YouTube and our various playlists. And if you want to enjoy clips from Spectator Sports, we got that for you on TikTok. And if you're somebody that likes to enjoy Spectator Sports as an audio-only experience, we got that for you on Spotify. Links are in the description, and let's get into previewing Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Game 6 was basically over in the first half. Haliburton came into Game 6 with his status as questionable. We didn't know if he was really going to play or not, but after undergoing an entire pregame workout, the Pacers training staff gave him the clearance to play. Now, early on in Game 6, Haliburton did struggle. He missed his first few shots, but eventually after hitting a three and making a couple of nice plays to his teammates, this energized the crowd. Haliburton stole a pass from J-Dub and then turned it into a fast break, and then he hits a nasty no-look pass to the streaking Pascal Siakam, who banishes J-Dub to the shadow realm. The dunk itself was so devastating. The stare down, the look on J-Dub's face, it seemed that Pascal Siakam snatched his soul. I kept seeing replays in Phantom Cam at various different angles all day on Friday, and this really felt that everything was going the Pacers' way, as it was a beatdown in Game 6 to force a decisive Game 7. This was a game that the Pacers controlled pretty much from the second quarter onwards. They eventually got up by 20 plus points. The lead got as high as 30 heading into the fourth, and the Thunder pulled their starters. And what's interesting in this game is that the Pacers out-thundered the Thunder. And what I mean by that is Indiana took care of the ball at an exceptionally high rate and managed to force OKC into several turnovers, including 21 total turnovers, resulting in 19 points for the Pacers, and 8 of them came from SGA. I thought the Thunder figured things out after that Game 3 performance, where it seemed that Shea wore down in the fourth quarter, but especially seeing the results in Games 4 and 5. But in Game 6, the Pacers made a different adjustment. They adjusted the pickup point where they take Shea on. And what I mean by that is, before in Games 1 through 5, they would pressure Shea from baseline to baseline, the full 94 feet. And it would be various different looks of ball pressure, or whether it was denying Shea on the inbound pass, making the offense have to flow through somebody else. Either way, Shea wore down, exhausting energy trying to get open, or even just trying to bring the ball up past half court. But at times, this led to Shea getting ahead of steam, and then he beat his man, which was usually either Aaron Nesmith or Andrew Nembhard, and then that left Miles Turner on an island. And we know that he doesn't do the best job of guarding in space, as he's too slow-footed to shut off that lane, and that led to several looks at the basket from very close range. But in Game 6, this changed. Nembhard picked up SGA at half court, and this gave Nembhard enough gas in his own tank to be a contributor on the offensive end. We saw a couple of corner three-pointers from Nembhard in the first quarter that kind of helped Indiana get into the flow of things after trailing early in the first. Like I said, the Pacers took a page out of OKC's book, with Nembhard staying connected with SGA, staying square, and navigating through a ton of screens in the process. The Pacers also packed the paint and essentially dared SGA or Jalen Williams to drive and kick it out to shooters, and then therefore daring those shooters to take those shots. And on a night where yet again they struggled from deep, I think before they pulled their starters, OKC only had 3 made three-point shots in Game 6. and this led to a dominant stand at home, and this leads up to one game for all the marbles in Game 7. This is the 20th Game 7 in NBA Finals history, and the first time in nearly a decade since the finals have gone the distance. There's a lot of history with trends favoring both teams depending on how you slice it. The recent 3 NBA Finals that went to a Game 7 featured a winner that rallied from a 3-2 deficit, and this favors the Pacers. However, 2 out of these 3 were in the old 2-3-2 format where the Lakers and Heat rallied at home to win in 7. But historically, Game 7 does favor the home team, and if you take out the Cavs' comeback from that 3-1 deficit in 2016, you have to go all the way back to when the Thunder were playing Seattle as the Supersonics, losing at home to the Washington Bullets in 1978. This trend favors the Thunder. OKC has that plane ride back home and now have a couple of days of rest to kind of fester and stew over this blown opportunity to win the title. We're likely treated to a tight game because both of these teams really know each other well, and we haven't seen a Game 7 being a blowout since 1974. So who has the momentum heading into Game 7? And it's hard to go any other direction other than the team that held a 30-point lead at one point in Game 6, so that's the Pacers. By winning in such dominant fashion, this gave the Pacers starters some rest that we probably didn't expect them to get because their backs were against the wall, and we figured that since the pressure is all on them to literally keep their season alive, they would need to expend a lot of energy just to get to a Game 7. But they took care of business early, and this bodes well for Haliburton's electric play. They rocked the Thunder with a devastating 30-9 run in the second quarter and never looked back. And Haliburton gets 2 full days to rest his injured calf, and his Pacers should be feeling confident heading into Game 7. However, OKC has never lost back-to-back games during this postseason run, and whenever they needed to deliver, they did. Whether it was back in that Nuggets series facing a 3-1 deficit in the face and they rallied to tie it at 2-2 and then later won Game 7 defending home court and beating the Nuggets in 7 games, or if you go back to earlier in this series when they were down 2-1 yet again and won Game 4 on the road. So the Thunder, they can get it done when push comes to shove, but this Game 7 will be the biggest test for the Thunder. The Pacers' path to victory is pretty simple. Play clean basketball, keep the turnovers to a minimum, stay composed against this OKC defense, knock down your open threes when you have the opportunity, and play fast and get out on the break. And don't forget that they also still have to maintain their defensive intensity. They have to play tough defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and who knows what could happen, but we know that the Pacers can be a little loose with the basketball. But in Game 6, they figured things out, where they kept the ball in their hands, prevented OKC from getting on the break themselves, and that's the formula to their success. If you take care of the ball, you have a really good chance to win this game. Defensively, the Pacers would be content with letting SGA and J-Dub play iso ball, and we're likely to see the Pacers pack the paint to create some drive and kick opportunities and essentially dare the shooters for the Thunder to knock down their shots. They'll also need to be aggressive with Haliburton, getting him going early, as well as Pascal Siakam, because those two are the biggest sources of them generating offense. Between Hallie's aggressiveness, injured calf or not, is going to be really, really important. And then establishing Pascal Siakam is going to be a point of emphasis because Pascal is the best player on the Pacers. It's just obvious, and when he gets going, it clears things up for his teammates and open things up for the rest of the Pacers team. Pascal can get out ahead of the OKC defense, making them run in those leak out opportunities. Well, that will also be a formula to wear down this OKC team. I expect Pascal Siakam to be somewhat of a Swiss Army knife in this game. He'll be kind of that point forward at times, setting up the offense and getting the shooters in the right positions, and then also have that turnaround jump shot that we've seen so many times from about 10 to 12 feet. And Don't forget that he can also play that small ball 5 position, so he'll have some opportunities to guard the paint as well. And we've seen him have success in all facets of his game. And if the Pacers want to win this game, Siakam's gonna have to be the MVP. He's gonna have to have a historic performance. He's gonna have to score in bunches, whether it's from inside, whether it's from out, be very good, very aggressive, and simply take advantage of every opportunity that he has. The Pacers will also need to knock down their shots. Like I said, whoever knocks down the most threes usually wins this game, with the exception of Game 4. And Nesmith has been quietly having a very efficient series, especially from outside. I do expect him to have a few more looks in Game 7 because he's been so efficient from deep. But don't be surprised if Nembhard, now with the fresher legs, also gets more involved offensively. And don't forget, you can't count out Obi Toppin, who's been really good from outside, shooting about 39%, and is actually the Pacers' third leading scorer. Now, the Thunder's path to victory is pretty simple as well. You ride the home crowd, you have home court advantage, and this will energize the entire team to set the tone defensively and suffocate the Pacers. If OKC can do this, it would generate several turnovers, get out in transition, and then likely this game's going to be a wrap, because when the Thunder are humming defensively like we've seen them at times during this postseason run, they're utterly unstoppable. I do think that we'll get about 50 to 60 points between Shea and Jalen Williams, but the other important factor is to get Chet Holmgren going, because is he going to show up at all in this series? Because we've seen now in half of these games in these NBA Finals, Chet Holmgren has been held to under 10 points. And for a guy that's so big and has so much opportunities at the rim just as a lob threat, it's inexcusable. I do appreciate his defensive prowess, don't get me wrong, because he's a great rim defender, he's very versatile. But the Thunder are going to need Chet Holmgren to play at a season average rate about 15 points a game. And if you get maybe 15 points out of Chet, that takes a lot of pressure off of SGA. But I do expect Shea to set the tone, come out firing early, and then also getting his guys involved. Because like I said, they cannot get into ISO play between him and J-Dub. They need to get their shooters involved, they need to get their role players involved. So those games that SGA is maybe having 7-8 assists a game, that is the formula for OKC's success. Now, the trends for this entire series has been the turnover battle. Whoever wins the turnover battle usually does come out on top in this series, and then it also comes down to three-point shooting and its variance. When talking about the Pacers' X factors, it starts off with their bench trio of TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, and Benedict Mathurin. While Haliburton may play quite a bit in Game 7, the Pacers are likely not going to be privy to Haliburton playing heavy minutes, and this is where TJ McConnell comes in. He can wreak havoc against the Thunder's second unit because he's so good off the dribble, attacking the spaces, because he is kind of more aggressive, especially scoring and defensively, than Haliburton is. And whatever he does, it just energizes the OKC bench. Like I said in an earlier video, he did a really good job in that Game 5 comeback attempt to getting the Pacers back into the game. But if McConnell can attack consistently, get downhill, the Pacers offense could hit a new gear. Obi Toppin has been surprisingly the Pacers' third leading scorer, like I said earlier. He's coming off of a 20-point performance in Game 6, and they'll need Obi to replicate some of that scoring punch in Game 7, and especially from beyond the arc. The games you see Obi Toppin getting dialed up, especially as an offensive rebounder and then as a perimeter threat, that's usually when the Pacers win those type of games. Now, Benedict Mathurin hasn't done much since his 27-point explosion in Game 3, but he's already vowed to give maximum effort heading into Game 7. And I'm just asking Benedict Mathurin to do something offensively, because he's been trending downwards since Game 3, And if he can even give them 8 to 10 points, that is something for the Pacers. I also think another X factor could be Miles Turner, because he's been getting really good looks from outside, especially in the corners and sometimes on the wing, but he's just been missing these open shots. But if he can get into that kind of game 1 room where we saw him knock down a few jump shots, that's also going to pay huge dividends for the Indiana Pacers. Similarly, OKC's X factors begin with their bench trio: Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins. We've talked and raved about Alex Caruso all series long, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does come up huge again in Game 7, because he's already had a couple of 20-point performances. Now, I think it is a lot to ask of the Thunder to get another 20-point game out of Alex Caruso, but if he can do what he does defensively plus at least 15 points, that is going to be huge coming off the bench. We've seen 3-point variance from Aaron Wiggins, where on the road he's been a shell of himself, but in games 2 and 5, he's had double-digit point performances where he's knocked down at least a few 3-pointers. Cason Wallace, he did have that good game 5, but outside of that, he's been really a non-factor offensively. He still gives you a lot defensively, so he'll definitely still crack the rotation, but his minutes have been getting less and less as the series gone on. He used to be a starter for the first 3 games of the series, and then in Game 4, they made an adjustment to get Isaiah Hartenstein back into the starting lineup, so we'll see what Cason Wallace can do, but you never know the surprise contributor in a Game 7, because back in 2010, Meta World Peace, then Ron Artest, scored 20 points, including the dagger to deliver the Lakers the championship against the Boston Celtics. In 2013, Shea Battier knocks down 6 3-pointers to offset scoreless nights from Chris Bosh and Ray Allen. I really think that Aaron Wiggins could be that guy that knocks down at least 3 to 4 3-pointers, and I think that could be the difference for OKC to win the championship. I have doubted the Pacers all year long, but this postseason run has made me think that they're a team of destiny. OKC has been the heavy favorite all season long. They've had the sample size, they have the personnel to make Game 7 an ugly one-sided affair. If they pounce on the Pacers early, they can bury them and they'll be champions. But if the game stays close and the Pacers are able to hang around, make this interesting, especially in the 4th quarter, the pressure will only continue to weigh on OKC. Remember, they're the 68-win team. They have the MVP, and they're at home. OKC has wasted their biggest advantage against Indiana, the fact that this is a best-of-7 series. The Pacers have proven that in a one-off situation, they can take on anybody and knock them off, and that's exactly the stage that they've set. Game 7, winner take all. The Pacers are coming in with house money where nobody expected them to be here. But at every avenue, the Pacers have defied the odds. And now they come within 1 game of winning it all. If the Pacers somehow pull this out, this could arguably be one of the biggest upsets in finals history. Even bigger than LeBron's 3-1 comeback against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors 9 years ago. I don't want to predict this game, I just want to watch the game. Regardless, the result of this game is going to be epic. Drop your predictions in the comments on who's going to win Game 7.